While staunchly defending the Trump administration's controversial military operations against Venezuela on the world stage, U.S. Vice President JD Vance subtly hinted that neighboring Mexico might realistically emerge as the very next strategic target in America's escalating war against transnational drug cartels and lethal narcotics trafficking. The U.S. Vice President came out forcefully in defense of President Trump's decisive actions following a torrent of global fury and diplomatic condemnation directed at the dramatic military operation that deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro alive in Caracas. Maduro's stunning capture and extraction sparked widespread international criticism that America had deliberately misidentified the true primary source responsible for the lethal drugs actively trafficked into U.S. cities and fueling America's devastating opioid epidemic. Compelling government statistics clearly showed that fentanyl precursors and finished products originating from clandestine Mexican superlabs had become the undisputed leading cause of preventable drug-related overdose deaths devastating American communities nationwide. JD Vance categorically refuted persistent claims suggesting Venezuela bore no responsibility whatsoever for the drug crisis, arguing forcefully that Caracas played a pivotal enabling role even if the bulk of deadly fentanyl itself originated from sophisticated labs located elsewhere across the hemisphere. JD Vance said, and I quote, "First off, fentanyl isn't the only drug in the world, and there is still fentanyl coming from Venezuela, or at least there was. Cocaine, which is the main drug trafficked out of Venezuela, is a profit center for all of the Latin American cartels. If you cut out the money from cocaine, or even reduce it, you substantially weaken the cartels overall. Also, cocaine is bad too." Unquote. Vance publicly assured anxious American audiences that the rampant illegal trafficking of deadly fentanyl pouring across the unsecured southern border from Mexico remains an absolute top priority dominating current U.S. national security and counter-narcotics policy initiatives. On December 4th, following the Venezuela triumph, President Trump provocatively suggested the United States could swiftly take similar decisive military action against any other recalcitrant nations actively facilitating or enabling the flow of deadly narcotics into American streets. Trump claimed confidently that amid Washington's intensifying crackdown on drug smuggling networks, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum appeared genuinely scared of potential U.S. retaliation, forcing Mexico City to confront its cartel crisis more aggressively.
And by the way, you have to do something with Mexico. Mexico has to get their act together because they're pouring through Mexico, and we're going to have to do something. We'd love Mexico to do it. They're capable of doing it, but unfortunately the cartels are very strong in Mexico.
I remember one time you actually, speaking of Mexico, I asked you about Claudia Sheinbaum, and you told me at one point you had offered to send U.S. troops into Mexico to combat drug trafficking there. Is that something you have spoken to her about?
I think she's a terrific person. I would say every single time I talk to her, I offered to send troops.
And she's just not willing?
She's concerned. She's a little afraid. The cartels are running Mexico.
The president's blunt and repeated comments clearly demonstrated that America under Trump leadership stands utterly unafraid to put boots on the ground through special operations raids or airstrikes in literally any sovereign country harboring threats to U.S. homeland security. Earlier on December 3rd, during a fiery primetime Fox News interview, Trump warned ominously that something's going to have to be done with Mexico regarding its failure to dismantle fentanyl production labs and stem the cartel's reign of terror along the border. This aggressive military attack on Caracas directly follows Trump's recent public assertion of his own muscular version of the historic Monroe Doctrine, reasserting U.S. hegemony over the entire Western Hemisphere against foreign adversaries and criminal enterprises alike. Trump's comprehensive 2025 national security strategy explicitly elevates the Western Hemisphere as Washington's highest strategic priority theater, citing unchecked drug flows, mass irregular migration, and Chinese economic influence as existential threats demanding urgent action. National security experts predict that instead of launching overt U.S. military invasions like Venezuela, Trump will strategically compel Mexico to undertake far more aggressive unilateral operations dismantling drug cartel infrastructure through targeted economic coercion. The United States can leverage enormous pressure through the upcoming USMCA Free Trade Agreement renewal negotiations scheduled for 2026, threatening tariffs and market access restrictions unless Mexico dramatically escalates its counter-cartel operations nationwide. Unlike Venezuela's pariah status as an isolated authoritarian regime, Mexico and the United States remain each other's absolute biggest trading partners with over $800 billion in annual cross-border commerce. dramatically complicating any overt military action scenarios. However, defense analysts warn that in truly extreme cartel provocation cases involving mass casualty fentanyl spikes, surgical U.S. drone strikes against sprawling Mexican fentanyl superlabs deep in cartel territory might ultimately emerge from Sheinbaum's government inaction.
Mañana hicimos un posicionamiento.
Yes, this morning we issued a statement together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on behalf of the government of Mexico. We uphold the Estrada Doctrine and what it represents for our country's foreign policy, which is set out in the Constitution. It opposes interventions and supports the peaceful resolution of any conflict. Likewise, Article 2 of the United Nations Charter clearly establishes that there must be no military intervention, but rather a multilateral solution within the framework of the United Nations. That is our position, and that is why we condemn this intervention in Venezuela. He has said this several times. However, we have a very good relationship with the United States in terms of security and other issues. There is communication. There is an understanding on security matters that has been established in several meetings. An initial meeting in Mexico that included Secretary Marco Rubio, and then several other meetings that have taken place. So, as we have always said, collaboration and coordination, but not subordination. Well, we're going to review it. I think it needs to be reviewed with the government team, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and of course within our country's constitutional framework. That is our statement so far, and we will stay alert and keep you informed. As we have stated, we condemn any intervention, and we are guided by what the Constitution establishes. This goes beyond even the presidency of Maduro. It has to do with international policy, international law, the international legal order, and with very clear principles of Mexican foreign policy that we defend. Within that framework, this is our statement condemning that intervention, and we will continue to evaluate and continue to speak out.